Welcome to Inglorious Banters, episode 8. All quiet on the Warmaster front. We are tackling the Warmaster topic again this time. I always want to say week. Every time I'm like,
It
this
has been a
week,
while. Yeah.
and it's not week. In fact, I'd say that our distribution game is pretty weak because it's not a week in between them.
No.
But this is all quiet on the Warmaster front because we're still getting focused in Warmaster, but we've had a little bit of time where we're not completely on top of our game. We have had a couple of big Warmaster events in our little gaming troop recently, which have been good. And we wanted to touch base with some of the new rules that have come out from the latest update for Warmaster Revolution. Across from me, I have Mitch and Andrew. We're going to touch base with them and see how they're going and what their hobbies looking like at the moment, and then get into our main topics. Andrew, how are you?
Hey everybody. Yeah, good. It's as Tim said, it's been all quiet on the hobby front, to be honest, with everything. Been a busy couple of months for me, so get refocused on hobby at the moment.
Have you got a particular system that you're looking to refocus on?
Warmaster and bolt action at the moment. I'm very, very close to finishing my first bolt action army. Get back into that, and then a couple of projects for Warmaster that I'd really like to tick off this year.
Mitch, how goes the hobby?
It's going slowly, but going. I've been working on stuff for our Colmar campaign board, so getting some more work done on that. I've been sharing some photos in our group. I need to update Instagram a lot more than I normally do because it's been pretty sparse on there at the moment. But yeah, just sort of working on that. I've done a bit of extra work on my Silver Bayonet guys. They're almost completed for my warband, so getting there and yeah, looking at stuff that's getting me distracted, which we'll have a chat about a bit towards the end. How about yourself? What have you been working on?
I'm many topics, a full rainbow of hobby. I've been really enjoying doing just 5 or 10 models at a time for one project. So I've just grabbed out a rank of goblins or 5 characters or something like that, and they'll get done in a couple of days because they're just really simple color schemes and contrast coats. So I've done 3 different batches of goblins. I'm testing out some colors for the Leagues of Votan for a squat army for 40k. And then writing up rules for them for 4th edition 40k. So I can match up with the other boys in our group that are playing in that particular timeline.
Not getting distracted at all by another old game system.
Not at all. But then on my paint table, that's all nestled in between a box of Imperial agents for Star Wars for Stargrave.
Yep.
And then second half of a commission of Empire Warmaster for our buddy Lee. So all of that is in my immediate vision of what has to get finished on my table before I can tackle another big project.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm actually really enjoying taking smaller bites of different hobby projects and just going this one squad, or for our Colmar thing, I just did 500 points and I did them in little like 2 squad batches, and you get that completion high real quick. You're like, pow,
Yeah.
I get that done. Awesome, move on.
Get your numbers up for the 365 challenge as well.
Not that you need any help with that at the moment.
Well, look, one of our old customers from the shop, if you ever online look for Ross's brushes commissions, he does commission painting. Said he wanted to join in this year for the 365 for the numbers challenge, and said, "Oh, commissions don't count, do they? Because it's not mine." And I said, "Look, just it's about painting models. Just complete models. Half of the models I'm doing already have their faces done or like their weapons done because they're leading that pile of potential that we all have."
Mm-hmm.
And he's already at 365. We're not halfway through the year yet, but he's done over 365
yeah, I think I saw
already.
A post was 379 with some like world eater stuff he was finishing off. I think it was last night or something.
Yeah.
So yeah, he's smashed it out, and we're in start of March?
Yeah,
start of May. Sorry.
I sent him a congratulations about it, and he went, "Yeah, I think my next goal is to complete 365 of just my own stuff, not including my commissions."
Yep.
All right, cool. And I was honestly, because I've made so much progress with the goblins so far, I was almost considering going, maybe I'll do 365
of goblins,
of just goblins, and then do the 365 challenge. So I'll just, my numbers are up in the 200s at the moment, I think, or just shy of it maybe. And I was like, maybe I'll just take out the goblins, and it turns out the goblins are on just from what I've got, it's like 250 goblin models, and about 50 of them are done. So, been this year. So who knows? But that's our hobby in a nutshell. In between all of those different things, we've been chatting away in our various groups and meeting up once in a while for some games, and we'll get into some of that in a moment, especially about our Warmaster stuff. Anything else that's burning tensions for you guys at the moment? Something that's really on your mind hobby-wise?
Striving to reach that 365 challenge, whatever the challenges you've chosen for the year. So I admit I haven't completed a single thing yet for it this year. I've got my 2 big away from being done. So I'm working on their board. I've got a whole bunch of other bits and pieces that are all on the go, but just not there yet. So,
exactly.
My numbers are, because I'm not doing the numbers challenge, they're 0 at the moment. But hobby is hobby. I'm getting stuff done every night.
I found last year and this year, because I get so distracted and I jump from project to project, I end up with loads of projects that are all half done. And I'm trying to think of it as my superpower that I've got so many projects that are half finished that everything's also halfway to complete. But when I go back to a project, I'm like, I only have to put in half of the effort to get that done for 365.
Yeah.
And that's why I don't feel no shame about finishing a half-painted army, because I could have counted that last year if I just focused on one thing, but I put in half of the effort last year, and now it's not paying off until this year. Like, I found a video on my Instagram of me like cleaning my hobby table, and I built a light setup for it, and I had like power boards all screwed into the table and stuff. I was like,
yeah.
And in that video, there's a little jar of models being stripped in simple green on the table, and I went, oh, when did I take this video? Because that jar is still there, and I just keep topping up the simple green when it like evaporates over time. It's got some Conflict 47 minis in it. And I look back and it was from June last year. I should probably get around to stripping those. But that's what I mean. Like my superpower is I forget to finish things, and so everything's ready to get finished.
That's awesome.
But hey, if it works, it works. Yeah.
So speaking of getting finished, we'll finish our little intro here, and we'll get straight into some hot Warmastery topics. It is time for State of the Game, and the game that we're focused on this week is Warmaster. In particular, we're quite excited because there has been a rules update. Having only been into Warmaster for 2 years? 2 years,
yep.
Yeah.
Bit less, yeah.
Yeah, we haven't seen a big rules update roll through so much. We might have missed the last one, but we've been playing with whatever the most up-to-date compendium is, and the new updates come through. And sometimes a rules update can mean a lot. It can mean a lot of changes, depending on the game system you're in. The Warmaster community is very stable in what they do, and they try and test things quite well from what I can see. And they get a good consensus of the community before they make sweeping changes. I really like the way they've got it set up for their...
Yeah, 100%. Like, there's a lot of play testing, a lot of, we've formed a committee that goes into these changes to make sure that they're actually decent and actually won't be game breaking before they go in. And even to the point where they'll acknowledge that, some aren't there yet, so they're going to keep play over the following year and maybe put them into the next year's update. So really good, as always, not a lot of sweeping changes, but just fine-tuning a few things to make them better than they already are.
Yeah. Mitch, did you have the nerves about new updates, or were you pretty confident?
It wasn't until Andrew went through and said, oh, by the way, here's some experimental rules and there's an update. I went, cool, all right. I've played 2 games, so it doesn't affect me quite as much because my gaming experience isn't quite as much as you two guys or some of the guys listening out there that have been playing in the tournaments. So for Warmaster, like ShyCon up in a couple, the week it was actually.
Yeah, wow.
So they had that there plus extra stuff that's been happening around the world. So yeah.
Well, you'll be pleased to know, Mitch, that for 2025 there are no changes to the Dark Elf list.
Hey, excellent.
Excellent. If there were, it would clearly be a trap, and they'd have to murder one of their own leaders. Or doesn't matter.
Which happened in the last game, yes.
Excellent. But Mitch had another game with his Dark Elves recently. We'll talk about that a little bit later. So Andrew's going to be our spokesman for understanding the new updates and just keeping an eye on what's changing. Andrew, take it away.
Awesome. So yes, as I said, very minimal changes across the board. Just tweaks to make sure that things are working. So yeah, for the most part, a standardization of the large bases. So some monsters like the Trebuchet for Bretonia that could be on a 40 by 60 base, and now are really regimented in the fact that they should be on.
So is that like, I know the Stegodon, I think, is
Yeah,
like
correct.
on a
So,
triple base kind of thing?
Yeah, like just a couple to call out. So the Stegodon, a Mammoth from the North list, the Bretonian Trebuchet, which already was on a 40 by 60, but just being spelt out that it should be, and the Screaming Bell for Skaven, which is a really good one given that its rule relies on unit contact. So that 40 by 60 means more Skaven can be affected, so better for the Skaven player. The other kind of big one was probably for those who use Giants. There was some wording clarification in the Goes Wild chart detail. Most army lists had no changes. A few had things just like a point reduction. Or the Empire list had a small reduction in the cost of skirmishes, just to try and promote their use.
Yeah.
Empire notoriously weaker infantry. So the skirmish up not only the attacks of the unit, but also an extra set of wounds. Cheap price, so making it even more cheap. Just being used more. One of my favourite ones was probably the Dwarf change, which was a 1 per army up Dwarf hero. At the moment, the Dwarf hero is much overshadowed by the Runesmith. The Runesmith can do the same thing, but better because it's also a wizard for the same points cost. There was no real incentive to actually take a Dwarf hero. What they've done is they've added in a new hero upgrade called the Oathstone. So, picture the good old world models where they're standing on a big stone and just hacking down people saying they're never going to retreat. Really, it helps the Dwarf player for one of the turns to get +1 attack from their unit, but also ignore the terror rule.
Yeah, that's handy.
Yeah, really handy little upgrade to keep them in the battle.
It's interesting on that front because the Oathstone is only relatively new in Warhammer terms. And very often we don't see new units and new upgrades being brought in because Warmaster is so of its time. Like it's almost sacrilege to bring in newer units that aren't in old school Warmaster. And a lot of the old guard would think, well, now you're trying to Warhammerize Warmaster, but there's places for it, I think, like you've just said, where it can be just a small upgrade. It can be minor and nuanced without being over the top.
And this is something as well that they don't just care and hope for the best. It's gone through and it's been checked and tested. They've play tested this to the point it's actually going to be worthwhile as an upgrade for the community as a whole.
Yeah.
I like that. I do have dwarves as my next army I want to do. So,
which was one of the reasons I called it out.
So I do really like the dwarf and hero models that the Forest Dragon does. So they do look very cool, very iconic.
Yeah, excellent. The only other one I'll probably call out specifically, again in the theme of armies that we're probably looking at in this group, is the High Elf change. Silver Helms. So as you know, in Warmaster, or for those who don't know, cavalry is king. What they've done now is they've just put a cap on Silver Helms at 3 per 1,000.
3 per 1,000, 3 companies per 1,000 isn't over the top. There's still plenty of hooves for your dollar, and you can still theme very heavily into Silver Helms if that's the way you want to go. But 3 compared with unlimited just puts a mild top on it. I mean,
Girls don't even have that for the cold ones, and I'd argue the cold ones are better overall.
Yeah, I think the counter for that is that there's a little bit more chance with the Dark Elves to lose their command rating.
That's
so
true, yeah.
It kind of balances out.
Mitch, do the Dark Elves start at Leadership 10 as well?
For their high general, yeah. 9 for their base heroes. I'm pretty sure the elves. I think actually all the elves are the same, including the wood elves.
Yeah. So the elves have a really high leadership rating across all the armies. The nuanced one for the dark elves is that if you roll a blunder on a character, the general needs to choose whether to execute that character and physically kill it, remove it from the game, or suffer a -1 to its leadership value, which it can only do a limited number of times.
Just had a quick look on the app, and silver helms are 110 per company. So you can still spend about a third of your 1,000 points on silver helms if you really want to go in. And look, 3 companies of heavy cavalry is
At 1,000 points,
that's plenty. Speaking as the receiver of a lot of cavalry charges in most of our games.
Yes, there's a lot of Bretonian hooves flying at you.
Yeah, I'm well acquainted with just how tough they can be. The Cold One Knights are 20 points more expensive for their extra attack.
Yeah,
but it's a really good all-around one because it's an extra attack just the first turn of a combat, not just on the charge.
Yeah, it's really quite handy.
Yeah. And then maybe just 2 other quick rule ones, just to match up the armies that we play. So Tim, for your Chaos Dwarves and your Vampires, no changes. For your Orcs and Goblins, though, referencing that giant change for any giants in there, and a cost reduction in your Chariots, just to try and balance the unit out a little bit, but also make it more attractive so that we see more of it on the gaming table.
Excellent. Well, it's a good thing that I have that themed nomadic chariot heavy goblin army coming up.
Right. So that's on all chariots, is it?
No. So that's specifically on the unit entry for the Orcs and Goblins.
Yes. Yeah. So Orcs and Goblins, unlike Warhammer Fantasy, they don't have multiple chariot types. They just have wolf chariots. Yeah. So there's not boar chariots or pump wagons or anything. But they're still decent chariots. They're not super hard like a Chaos Chariot, but they're also cheap as greenskins can be. So they're... For people that already play Warmaster, they will know that there are restrictions on chariots. If you don't have a lot of experience with Warmaster, chariots and cavalry are very restricted about where they can go. So they can cross a wall, they can jump over it, hooray! But they can't go through other forms of difficult terrain like forests and things like that. Chariots can't cross walls. Can't cross anything apart from open terrain. So anything that counts as open, like a bridge or a hill, they can move on those, but they can't cross muddy fields, rough terrain like broken rocky ground, anything like that. So you can't bait somebody out of their terrain to come and fight you. You have to wait for them to be in the open.
Right.
Okay. But the chariots get that bonus attack because of all those bladed wheels and those sweaty bits. But you've got to get people to actually come out and fight you, or find a way to catch them somewhere else.
So that's most of the, I guess, high-level changes for the army lists. I haven't gone too far deep into the actual rules book change, but it was quite minimal as well. Most of it just is around like wording clarifications. There was some areas of the siege rules that were changed up a little bit just to make it flow a little better. Some experimental rules around magic items, specifically for me around the banners. For those who do play the Warmaster game, a lot of the magic banners that you can take for armies will cease to exist the first time a stand is destroyed. These experimental rules are about giving you a little bit more bang for buck. So when that stand is destroyed, you're actually rolling to see if the banner is destroyed with it.
Yeah.
So
that's nice.
Yeah. So for people like me who like to slap a banner of shielding on one of my peasant units to make it my armored household guard, that has a chance of at least sticking throughout the game rather than dying turn 1 from battering artillery attacks.
Yeah. It was earth shaking.
Shaking, sorry.
Technically, earth shaker rocket batteries. So that's the difference. Look, that's really good because in every other game system, the guy carrying the special upgrade is the last guy you take out of the unit, not the first.
Yeah.
And no one's taking their command squad out first batch of casualties.
Exactly.
So I like that there's a chance it's destroyed or that there's not enough men pushing behind it to make it work. It's a cool little narrative / gaming mix-up that I
Yeah.
like. So was it just the banners was the main magic?
There's a couple
difference?
other tweaks like reduction in costs for some of the swords just to make them more prevalent on the battlefield. Others that I need to kind of dive in more, but it was the banners that caught.
Yeah. Nice. They're too low and the tassels get in your face.
Well, yeah, and it sucks losing them turn one. So
Doesn't it? Excellent.
yeah, so and then anything after that. So that's it for official rules changes. There is also a gentleman that puts together an experimental experience list, which I absolutely love. Warmaster isn't about getting every single unit from the Warhammer Fantasy game on the battlefield. A lot of it we just represent, giving that magic to a unit to make it count Swordmasters. However, this guy puts together an actual a list of those specialized units that you can try out. Again, they're not game breaking. They're pretty well costed. They've got good rules. They really fit in well to. So it's been expanded this year. It's up to little tweaks around. Probably my favorite one for this year because I'm an absolute sucker for warrior priests, as our friend Lee knows. On the receiving end of an old Warhammer game of Warriors of Sigma army, too many channeling dice, and it was great. So the experimental rules list allows you to take a warrior priest from the witch hunters list in the regular empire list.
Awesome.
Just a little bit of flavor. It allows me to have essentially a combo hero wizard that can cast spells from a different list. So I can have my regular wizard throwing around fireballs, and then the warrior priest stoically holding the line with Sigmar's blessing.
Anything that adds a bit of additional narrative or background to the game is always a win as far as I'm concerned. Was there? I know we usually focus in on our own armies. We've got represented in our gaming group is Bretonians, Empire, Undead, well, Vampire counts, Chaos Dwarves, Orcs and Goblins, and Dark Elves.
Yep.
But then one of our other mates who plays is also playing Empire, so we've got that down as well.
And we've got the potential to have High Elves and Dwarves probably in the coming years, just with people that are interested in it.
Yeah.
But were there any standouts from outside of our gaming that you noticed on those themed units, I mean?
Okay. That would really caught my eye. I usually tend to focus on I did see there's some cool extra the Dark Elves and some cool extra ones. Elves. Probably have to go back and look again to find really cool.
That information you sent through to us about some of the expanded ones recently, I had another look through it. The dwarves where I'm looking at going for, they have actually got Longbeards and Hammerers in there. And I'll just point out one thing with the Hammerers. The Hammerers actually get 4 attack dice as a base standard amount of attacks, which to be honest is pretty good because most of the stuff in my Dark Elves is all 3 attacks only. Like, I'll get bonuses if like for the ones in the first round of combat, but not much else. But having like a block of actual infantry to go, cool, I got 4 dice per stand. That's a fair amount of dice to be thrown out.
But
so
speaking as a dirty orc player, I'm not impressed. The orcs' whole thing is that they've got 4 attacks per stand.
Oh, okay.
But
Right,
they've got lower armor as well.
Yeah, the dwarf trade-off is usually that most of the stands are 4 wounds each, so they stick around for a little bit longer.
It's a great upgrade. Sorry to interrupt, Andrew, but it's a great upgrade for dwarves going up to 4 attacks because normally they've got the extra resilience, like they've got the good saves and the 4 hits. Yeah. But up to 4 attacks on an elite unit is pretty mean, especially if you put in a banner or...
Exactly, and it all starts to add up. So, you got 4 attacks basic, you're going to charge, that's 5 attacks. Add in that cheap little 10-point sort of one it is that gives you an extra attack overall.
Yeah.
You had a hero in there, and we start adding pursuit bonuses onto that.
Yeah.
They become a little terrier of a unit.
Well, just having another quick look there at the Longbeards as well, so they get to ignore the terror rule.
Exactly.
So, which is great,
really
especially if we're going to be going up. Yeah, not losing that -1 attack. especially going to be coming up against, I don't know, like a bunch of giants from Tim's Orc and Goblin army.
Yeah, look, speaking as a Vampire Counts player, I'm not so keen on you guys ignoring all this terror. It's hard enough playing Bretonians when all of them are too brave to be afraid.
And the ones that aren't, I don't care about feeding into the big runner.
No. Most of our games are me trying to pick on the peasants so that I can feel like I killed something, and then getting trampled by umpteen lances of Bretonians. Look, all of those, like the specialist units, sometimes it's just another excuse to purchase or print another unit that has that character. Like you get some cool Longbeards or some great swords or
like guard or something like that.
There's I know Forest Dragon does alternate sculpts of Black Knights for Vampire Counts as Blood Knights, and it's always worth just giving them an extra banner of savagery or something. So anything to give them some bonus.
Just to visually, sorry, Tim. Even just to visually break up your army. Like I've got 2 little scattered questing knight model units, Bretonian army. And it's just great. You've got your Sea of Knight of the Realm, and just every now and then you just see a little guy playing a loot. And it's really cool just to break up that army. Yeah, exactly.
So speaking of Forest Dragon, have you had a chance to print off the new Spearman?
Yeah, definitely. So I managed to get a couple of units of the new Spearman printed out, both the shielded and the unshielded variant. I'm looking forward to some of the new knights. One of the variants is some Knight Panther, which I haven't yet. So I've managed to print up, Blazing Sun and some Reichsguard. So the Knight Panther will just, round out the trio.
Well, I was just about to paint 1 or 2 companies as Knights Panther for Lee using older sculpts, but I might wait now and just get actual miniatures for them as Panther if he wants them.
He's done some really cool stuff with this one. So in the Spearman unit, he's experimenting with having some mounted officers instead of just the normal on foot. So it takes up kind of 2 spaces instead of the 1 that it normally does, but it just looks so cool. Nice. Yeah, you got to see a spearman and then all of a sudden just the mounted officer directing them.
Yeah.
Very, very cool, very iconic, fits really nicely in, and I'm sure it will be extremely.
Absolutely. There's a bit of a modeling space there, like there's some lateral room to think about doing unit fillers and dioramas in your Warmaster stuff that we often don't think about. In my Orc and Goblin army, I've broken a few goblins off the end of each row and then mixed in a couple of trolls through one of the regiments, so they're like mixed goblins. One of the other ones has a couple of loose wolf riders, just like bounding over the goblins in like a big mass of them.
One of my favorite ones that you've done is I think it was one of your ogres snapped off, and you've got the cheeky little goblin with the club masquerading as an ogre.
Yeah, he thinks he's tough. He's going to be great. It looks like one of the old Night Goblin clubbers from way back in the day. Just a huge, it's literally just a log. I even painted it red like the old red era Warhammer, but with like it could look like a nail through it, but it's just a giant metal spike on it. But yeah, he's half the size of all the ogres around him, but he looks just as fierce. And that's a great area to put in representative models to show the nature of the army, that they're like ragtag, they're not all regimented, they're bundled in together. There's half of the Forest Goblin sculpts for the common goblins have like a goblin hiding behind a rock on one of the rank strips.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
Or 2 goblins on top of each other, like riding. One of the strips has 2 goblins fighting over something, and one's holding the other one by the neck, like they're in the middle of failing their animosity test. And those are just heaps of fun.
There's a lot of really cool sculptors out there. There was one that I found when doing files for Warmaster. I think it was Edoras something was the sculptor. He's Cult 3D. And he had the most amazing sculpts for Shadow Warriors. They were just an alternate for the Archer unit. However, the Experimental Rules does have one for Shadow Warriors. What he'd done is it was a full unit in motion. So instead of having like in the row, he only had 3 or 4, but they were like bounding over logs and stones and stuff, like they were like running towards or away from the enemy.
That's it. Anything that makes the game more of an experience is a big win in my book. Even the Magic Banners my Chaos Dwarf army has so many magic banners. On some of them, I've painted the symbol of the weapon upgrade. So I figured if there was a captain in a unit of Chaos Dwarves who was famous for having the burning sword or the sword of destruction, he might actually have that emblazoned on his banner.
Yeah.
And it takes me back to old Warhammer Classic days where the White Dwarf battle reports would have the pictures of the different units.
Little icons and everything. Yeah.
And sometimes the icon would be flavored to represent the upgrade on that unit. Like that banner's got
old school battle maps.
The banner, the razor banner or something. And so there's extra blades painted around the edge. And that can be heaps of fun. I've got a whole unit where the entire unit's shields have been painted as if they're on fire. And that's the unit that I give upgraded armor to. Yeah. Excellent. Look, it's an exciting time to be in Warmaster. Just seeing the consistency of upgrades, the consistency of rules, information coming out to people, I'm having a great time. And I'm sure you all are too.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Need to get some more games in for it. So, and more miniatures, because why not? Just add to that pile.
Speaking to someone who's got a lot of zombies and a lot of skeletons to finish, and I haven't even started the goblins yet. I rank and file, no.
More monsters.
Could do an ogre army. Boy, could I do an ogre army.
Yeah.
But the thought of more infantry at this point is breaking my brain a bit. Anyway, we're going to move on to talking about some of our recent gaming experience. And we are going to roll into some actual gaming discussion. Mitch had a game recently with his shiny Dark Elves, the teal and snowy winter color scheme.
Yep.
And Andrew and I also laid some pretty hefty smackdown on a very large game. We're going to start off with Mitch's experiences first. So tell us about your game, Mitch.
So at our last gaming get-together, I had a quick game against our mate Lee, using his Empire versus my Dark Elves. I will admit it was a very quick game because I managed to get some decent orders off to get a decent charge with my Cold One Knights. I will admit Cold One Knights are brutal as hell, especially because when you're actually going through and you're actually fighting like that, you win pushing back, you then fight in another combat after that. It's a new round of combat. It's a whole new combat that started over, so you get the +1 bonus to your attacks, which combined with the charge and having a character in there really meant I was throwing out a ton of dice.
So, again, cavalry is king, especially heavy cav.
If, like me, you've listened to all of Ian's faction roundups on his YouTube channel, I think he mentions the Cold One Knights 5 times about how efficient they are, and then even makes a joke about, have I mentioned the Cold One Knights? They really do the business.
Yeah,
on
well,
the table.
that's what helped carry me. I did manage to almost get my Hydra actually up into combat. My bolt throwers, like in the previous game I played, didn't really do anything to help out. They were pretty sort of a nothing kind of unit. Infantry just kind of marched up and got pretty close. There was a combat there, but we are talking almost 2 months ago since I played this game. Unfortunately, it's sort of been how long since we managed to get a game in, because our last sort of get together for our last monthly one tended getting anyone really together. Everyone was kind of busy. So yeah, I enjoyed playing. It was really cool to actually get back into the swing of things, remembering the turn sequence. Making sure I order things. I did, unfortunately, as we talked about with a little bit earlier, about the blunder roll and losing General's leadership. I decided to take that instead of sacrificing one of my heroes, because I kind of needed him to do what he was needing to do. We give those extra attacks. I managed to get so close with my movement that I ended up being almost on Lee's battle line to fight. After a couple of turns, just he failed to cut an order here or there. Which kind of hindered him a fair bit. But Team Tank is scary.
Yeah.
I don't know about you guys. You've been on the receiving end of it, but yeah, it's certainly a scary prospect to go up against. Thankfully, it was only 1,000 points, so it was only one of them.
Yeah, exactly. I think the thing with Warmaster, and especially those smaller game points levels, as you said, is that they do go quite quickly. It only takes a couple of decisive combats in a small points game. But yeah, you mentioned about your infantry kind of only marching up. I mean, Warmaster is very reflective of old battles in how they actually work. Yeah, the infantry is there to pin down the enemy for the cavalry to sweep in and make that charge, which is why they're so efficient at what they do.
Yeah, definitely found that to be the case. That once I actually got up close enough with a cavalry charge, it was pretty much done and dusted.
And the big things that I find as well is that artillery, you really got to get your head out of hammer aspect of artillery, where the range is basically, look, it doesn't matter where I put this on the board, I'm hitting what I need.
Yeah.
Whereas with Warmaster, it has that proportionate range to the scale, and you often forget about it. You put it on the back of your battle line and go, sweet, I'm all set for this game. And then you go, oh, whoops, that's well out of range. And then you up as your battle line moves up, and most of the time it's sitting there at the back.
That is exactly what I was going to say. You've got to break yourself of the Warhammer mindset, because you don't move your artillery in Warhammer at all. But in playing Chaos Dwarves, I've got a lot of artillery, and you've got to move it up so that it can actually do the damage. It's got to move up and advance alongside. So I was wondering whether or not you'd moved yours up, because the first few games I played, I just kept thinking, wow, geez, I can't move and shoot this artillery, so I better just leave it back here until he gets closer.
It's that moving and shooting thing for your war machines. Because I'm an Empire player, I always carry my cannons, Hellblaster, volley gun. I was very artillery focused. Even my High Elf army had artillery. And Night Goblin army had artillery in it.
Yeah.
It's one of those things that you get out of that mindset that my artillery can actually move and be a part of this. It's a bit hard. I did order it forward. I did manage to move it up once or twice, but it's more the slower move rate for it.
Yeah.
Kind of hindered me in that case, because it meant that I wasn't keeping up with the rest of the battle line, because they were outpacing, because I was managing to get the orders off on them. I order them again, sort of just try and get that second move. Yeah. But, these are all learning things. I did end up carrying away the victory at the end, because I managed to kill off the unit with his general in it. But that there was a question there we had, because he put him in with steam tank. I don't think we got around to checking on the clarification if he could or not.
Sure.
But at any rate, if he was in the unit of knights, I still wiped out the knights. Yeah. It's kind of one of those things that it kind of out better for me in the end anyway, because I still won the game. Nice to win, but it was just one of those things that I was still learning the rules and trying to get down pat, because my brain has that many rule systems in there, as I'm sure a lot of older people that might be listening would have probably the best part of 20 plus years worth of rules from different game systems, not including the ones that, I keep getting distracted by.
I was just about to say that too. Good thing we've got a whole section called What's Distracting Mitch.
Yeah, so stay tuned for that. Getting that, it's that repetition. So just like you do with anything, you get the reps and you figure out what you need to do, how your army works. More proactive with my cavalry rather than going, oh, well, I'll hold them back. Oh, I probably won't do this. I thought, you know what? I'll chuck them forward. If they get hit, they get hit. So they do. It's the first round of combat. I'll still have that extra attack dice. I'll still do something to maul him up. And they've got a pretty good save as well, considering they've got the scaly height. I think I'm trying to remember, it's 3+, I think. So they're already pretty good to begin with as far as their saves. So, I ended up having a lot of fun getting another practice in. It was a nice quick hit out, which was always, always fun to get in and play League, because I don't get playing very often.
Yeah, so, absolutely. Yeah. Nice.
I think that those smaller point systems are actually a bigger learning curve for players.
Fair point. Well, on the other side of the coin is larger games are a very different learning curve, because we sat down to have a big game and we were just kind of flipping ideas around like, how many points could we put together? Just say we went absolutely crazy about it. And we ended up playing our first 4,000 point game. As far as visual spectacles go, that was a good looking game.
The photos, I don't think, did it justice. I think the video you sent through.
Yeah. No, look, it was just absolutely incredible. So we ended up doing a combined 2,000 points from Fire and 2,000 points from versus Tim's Chaos Dwarves. I think our first hurdle with that was trying to work out a fair way to do an allied army, because obviously the game doesn't normally allow for that on the one player side. Playing a 3-player game, great, 3 separate armies, 3 separate generals, everything's fine. But with me controlling 2 of those armies, it probably wasn't fair to have 2 separate generals given 2 better command buffs. So in the end, we decided we had the two separate generals. However, they could only command units from their own faction. That way, it wasn't, I wasn't able to kind of split my army up and have, my best units from each faction on one area controlled by one of the characters. I really had to think about how those armies would interact as an allied force, which added an extra element. So Tim wasn't at the disadvantage.
Yeah. The other thing we did was they had their own breakpoints for each one. So
Correct.
Across the course of the game, I managed to break the Empire because they were the frontline troops. And I was in a rare move for me, was actually playing to one of my army's strengths instead of just rushing forward and having fun. And when I listen to battle reports and YouTube things about Warmaster, and people say, if you're playing the defensive game or the offensive game, and I always just think of that as a weird nebulous statement, but I went, no, I'm slower, heavier armored. I should be in terrain, forcing the enemy to come to me and blasting them with artillery. That's what Chaos Dwarves do. And so I did. And it was absolutely awesome. There's a large choke point on the battlefield between a very large mountain with a fortress on it and some hills on the other side. And most of the Empire army advanced nobly and bravely right through the center of it. And then 2 different brigades of artillery were set up on my Chaos Dwarf line, and I moved them up into range, and they just hammered everything that came through the pass, and units would get pushed back and cause confusion on the other units or break into them, particularly with Chaos Dwarfs having the rocket batteries that cause confusion on nearby units. So that was really effective. However, that was only half of your army. The other half all hooves and pennants and was just behind it. And as the corpses hit the ground from the Empire line, the Bretonians pushed through and they charged in and mopped up everything. And I honestly thought that I had won that game on points. We totaled it up at the end, and it was still a solid victory to the Bretonian and Empire alliance, even though the Empire broke towards the end. Yeah. So impressive.
It was such a great game. We had to change our tactics so often in it to kind of keep it going. Like the original plan was that the Chaos Dwarves were kind of assaulting this fortress that was on the hill. And as the game started, it very quickly turned the other way, and I needed to go on the offensive. So I hadn't set my army up in any type of way that would lead to a good offensive strategy. I'd been relying on Tim attacking me. It was just an absolute meat grinder. Like, picture D-Day landings. It was literally just moving through this narrow gap and just getting pounded by artillery.
Yeah.
As Tim said, though, surprisingly, the Empire breaking was the best thing that happened for the battle for me. Because as soon as that line disappeared from running away, the entire Bretonian line was then able to advance in the formation that was good for an offensive strategy and just started sweeping the field in front of it.
Exactly. From a rules perspective, because all those companies were still at full strength, they weren't taking modifiers on their leadership. They were getting 2 or 3 orders a turn at cavalry speed, and they just tore across the battlefield into whatever was left of my line that had advanced forward. And when they hit, there was nothing I could do. Like, I had a few brave holdouts here and there, but yeah.
Because the forces were, Andrew, your Empire and Bretonians versus Tim, your Chaos Dwarfs and Vampires?
No, just Chaos Dwarfs.
Just Chaos Dwarfs. 4,000 points of Chaos Dwarfs.
Yeah. I didn't mean to get 4,000 points of Chaos Dwarfs.
It's amazing.
Well, yeah. There was, I think, 2 extra brigades in there that were made up of slave orcs, but I used common orcs from my
from your orcs
from
and goblins.
But there's black orcs in the Chaos Dwarf list as well. So
there is.
It's all official Chaos Dwarf units. I think the only other weird one I had was I've got a unit of ogres that I use as black orcs, because there's a lot of ogres in the Badlands for Chaos Dwarves as well. So I use them as just a themed unit. They're both heavy cavalry, same stats, but there's one special rule different. But yeah, 4,000 points of just Chaos Dwarves. There was a few units of Chaos Dwarf infantry that took a long time to break because they're just so resilient.
Yeah.
But like I had bull centaurs with a bull centaur hero and a Taurus trying to push one flank, and I got like one failed order test, and they ended up standing in front of a Hellblaster on a hill,
that's not
and because they made their first move, ducked out into the open, failed their charge order, and just stood there and got pasted.
Oof.
And they spent the next 2 turns falling back, regrouping, coming back.
Yeah, and I think the spectacle of that points level also allows for a lot of interactions that we don't normally see at the normal kind of 1500 to 2 that we play. I was able to get some really good magic off with my Empire Wizards in the vein of a couple of fireballs, which literally just draw an imaginary line X amount of centimeters long, everything underneath it is going to get hit. Now, in a normal 2,000 point game, you probably, unless you position it really, really well, or the enemy gets really unlucky, you don't actually get a lot under that line. Whereas at the 4,000 points that we were playing, I literally had a beautiful open flank that I managed to riskily move both of my wizards down onto. And then, imagining kind of beam to stern cannon shot of a ship just straight along the line of Tim's battle line with fireball.
Particularly, they moved around into a position where they were on the flank of my Wolf Riders and the Bolt Throwers.
Yeah.
There's 8 Bolt Throwers in one company because you buy them in 2s.
Yeah.
So I think it was 8. It might have been a couple of units, but they just got shredded through just all these fireballs coming through. There were archers up in the fortress throwing extra shots at them. But there was so much cool stuff happened across it. I committed one flank very heavily to artillery and tried to distract them with like 1 or 2 units of blunderbusses and chaos dwarves on one side.
Try and draw them in for those easy standards to take out.
No, I put Wolf Riders and a couple of infantry blocks on one flank to try to hold off anything coming around and taking out my artillery.
Gotcha. Yep.
And then on the other side, I just threw slave orcs into the midfield to say, come and get me. And as soon as the Empire moved up, the artillery just opened up on them. Anything that came through, I'd try to charge with the slave orcs and hold them up. But the flanking side was really only like 2 brigades, like of Chaos Dwarves, and they got hit with like 6 units of knights that had pushed their way around that flank. They'd formed up into a couple of brigades with a hero in each one. The wizards jumped ahead, and that flank crumbled much faster than I thought. I was like, they'll be okay. They got 4+ saves and stuff. But a couple of good charges, and they were dust.
I don't know why, but all of my flanking maneuvers in Tim and my games always seem to come off my way, and they come off in a big way because they just unexpectedly crush more than what they probably should.
Yeah. Good thing for you.
Yeah, fantastic for me, but
Look, it makes for an exciting game. Even if it's what's that line from Harry Potter where he's like, the owner of this one did amazing things. Terrible, but amazing.
Yeah,
I would describe that your charges as terrible but amazing. They're a thing to behold, but not a thing to hold close.
Yeah. So I look forward to many more very large scale games as more of us get our armies painted up.
Out of curiosity, how long was that game for you guys? Because it
was a whole a day session.
Yeah.
So probably 4 hours.
Yeah. We started in the morning. We had lunch about halfway through, and then we finished off 3-ish. So it was a good chunk of the day.
So about sort of 4 or 5 hours or so.
It's about what you would expect for a 4,000 point game of any other system that we play.
Yeah. Having something that large on the table always looks magnificent, regardless of what game you're playing. Having multiple, like, good terrain, multiple units on there, the volume of stuff on the table can be overwhelming. But I suppose considering the amount of stuff that you're losing tends to be pretty quick.
Yeah.
Once you start having that amount of artillery or knights on the field.
I was just raking off dead pots. But we bumped up the table. Was it 8 or 10 feet that we did, Tim?
We did Yeah, 10 by 4.
That's right. Yeah,
10
so
by
we
4.
bumped it up to quite a large table to match the spectacle of
Yeah.
4,000 points.
And a diagonal center line, so we had an even longer center front as well.
It was just
Someone Pythagoras that and tell us.
Yeah.
No, it was very good. That 10 feet really allowed for like the maneuvering that scale should bring.
It also made our heroes vitally important because the battle lines were potentially so long. If you didn't have enough heroes spread around, there were units that just couldn't take orders, and they would just sit there. As Andrew was talking about, small points games.
Well, that's where heroes like on your Lamassu or Taurus, or Pegasus Knights, Griffins, that kind of thing for Empire. That's where those flying units are really coming to their own, because 100 centimeters, you're still talking a meter, but on a board that long, you're not going to be able to get yourself to where you need to. Talking 2 turns to really to get where you need to if you've got to go from one flank to another. I suppose in that case, having multiple heroes on flying mounts makes it a lot better. You'll spend that little bit extra in points, but given the size, you could like 500-600 points worth of upgrades on flying characters and still have a decent army out of it at the end.
It's something that I've learned from both from our game, but also from listening to different explanations of the Warhammer rules. Is as a rough rule of thumb, every brigade should probably have a hero that's giving it orders.
Yeah.
Otherwise, that brigade just needs to be able to do what it's supposed to by just shooting at the nearest enemy or just charging when the enemy get close enough on initiative.
Yeah.
So for some armies, like for the Orc and Goblin army, their leader is only leadership 8 anyway, which is the same leadership as the basic heroes. Like the general is the same leadership as basic heroes. Not actually relying on him to do better orders. You just buy a whole bunch of orcs and you spread them along the line. There's always sub bosses to do the job. Okay. Very much the same for my undead army, where I've had multiple brigades at the back, 3 units of skeletons, Death Guard in the front, kind of thing, and they just sat there because I moved up the rest of my battle line and then failed an order on them. And then my heroes were too far ahead to give them orders.
Yeah.
And too vital for the front line to send back.
Because they can't charge without orders. They don't charge on initiative at all.
Yeah.
So I had a couple of 100 points worth of bodies just sitting in this back row and would just sit there and do nothing until the sound of hooves suddenly on their left flank.
Speaking of other good shout out, there's a really, really great series of YouTube videos by On the Tabletop. That goes through and visually using models actually explains pretty much step by step every rule section of the book and how to complete it. The great tips and tricks because charge alignment is so important in this game. How to actually sequence your own movement of stands to give you different results on the charge that are all well within the rules. But he shows you that by doing, say, the left stand instead of the right stand first, you end up in a completely different position than what you could have had if you'd done it the other way around. Yeah. I really recommend that series of videos.
Between On the Tabletop and E&M Standings videos, there's so much good viewing to go through, and I'm sure there are loads of other content creators that we just haven't stumbled across yet. But if, like us, you're still fairly new to Warmaster, give those a look in. Congratulations again, Andrew, on your well-deserved victory. My Chaos Dwarves definitely thought that they had managed to kill enough that they'd turned the battle on points.
I was not confident at all when that game finished until we started tailing up points and realised that, especially with the Empire, when they broken, there was still just enough units that had like one stand left that you didn't get the full points for them. Just enough to turn it in my favour.
Got to kill whole units.
Yeah, well, that was the upside downside, because the army broke and we removed the whole army, but we counted actual kills. So there was a lot of units that were removed from play, but still had like one stand left. But similarly, on my side, there were very few units that were at half strength like that. Most of my units were entire units destroyed. So Andrew was getting full points. No leftovers. He was cleaning his plate properly like a good boy.
What is it the kids say these days? Ain't left no crumbs.
Yeah. A really good game, and looking forward to our next one. I'm not looking forward to finishing painting another 4,000 points That was both armies fully painted as well, wasn't it?
It was, yeah. It was not
Yeah,
only was
wow,
both,
that's
yeah,
that is awesome.
8,000 points. And that's literally thousands of miniatures. Like,
yeah, it was everything. All of the armies, all of the terrain, everything painted,
Yeah.
everything spectacular. God, and was it good?
I should really get my dwarfs up and running because they're going to be a lot easier to paint than my Dark Elves to get up to 4,000
Mitch,
points.
finish your Dark Elves first.
clean your plate.
Clean my plate. Yeah.
Awesome. Look, we're going to come back for a really quick chat with Mitch about what's got him distracted right after this. It's time for What's Distracting Mitch? So what's distracting Mitch at this time?
Okay, I will admit I have been better this month than I have any other month.
You've been a good boy.
I will agree with that. Yes.
So I've been still looking at some of the other stuff. One I wanted to focus on because they've got their hardcover edition books, campaign books, and their miniatures all going through GameFound at the moment, is 1490 Doom. Now, this is a cool little skirmish game. Andrew said he'd never heard of it, despite I think I listed it in that chat we had about the 30 games coming back from CanCon. That was one of the games that was listed.
To be fair, it got lost amongst 30, 30 other titles.
The other 30, yeah. So they're on GameFound at the moment for their whatever the version of Kickstarter is that they have for this. Currently, they've still got 17 days left as of the date of recording on it.
Mm-hmm.
You can still, however, get the PDF version of the rulebook now. It's been available for a while.
Oh, cool.
So you can look up 1490 Doom. I found it through Instagram, and it was just really cool. People making companies for it, like the little war bands. The whole premise of the game is it's set during Europe. There's been a massive, altering, fog that has gone through and completely taken over. Think of it's called the creeping death. So you have people that have to go out and forage equipment, supplies, that sort of thing. Everyone that can be above the cloud levels will stay up there. So like your noblemen, things like that, and everyone else that's below the fog level, you're just in the worst kind of place possible.
Yeah.
So the whole idea is that your actual companies are built up out of 3 models. It's only a 3 model game. It's done on a 2 foot by 2 foot board, so a round circle board. The cool thing about it is that you only need the 3 models overall. There are different classes: scouts, brutes. You got warrior priests. You can bless people, things like that. You got assassins, and the whole idea is that everyone's wearing rudimentary respirators and things like that. Yeah. So
a damp rag in an old horse's nose bag.
1490 respirator.
Yeah,
Lord.
So it's one of those things that you could make. It could be done out of anything. Some of the official artwork and official miniatures, because they do have official miniatures out, which some look really quite nice. Have full enclosed armor. Some have got just a big round bell dome kind of head with a little visor on the front.
I would probably be lucky to get away with just a sprig of lavender up each nostril and just pray my way through the smog.
Well, the some of them even look like almost bagpipe equipment with hoses going up, or a bag full of air to breathe into. The setting is really kind of cool as far as a little game. The official miniatures look quite nice. They actually had the Warrior Priest was one that they had been doing up and were putting out at Adepticon as a special event. You could get it there first, sort of thing, of a physical model for it. You can get the STLs for them, which is pretty cool. They have different pledge levels on the GameFound for it. So when this recording goes up, if there's still some time, check it out. If not, most of these, I believe, will become available through their regular service.
Nice.
But the rulebook is about $20. So I'm actually thinking of picking it up because I have a bad habit of buying rules and not playing them. But this one here, because out of the different classes that you can pick, you only need 3 models to play it.
Very refreshing.
Mm-hmm. Not having a massive model count game is even a warband of 10 miniatures for Mordheim or Stargrave or Frostgrave or something like that. You will find over the choice of what do you take, how many of that particular type do you take, that sort of thing. The good thing about this is you pick what 3 you want to have. can't pick the same one again. You literally get, if you want to have like a scout, a fighter, and a brute. There's your 3 miniatures.
Yeah.
That's it. You can assassin. You take an assassin instead of the brute. Whatever you might want. They all have different benefits. How well they fight. They good their armor is. Very cool. So I can highly recommend 1490 Doom.
Yeah, just look into it. I actually watched a bit of a review on it on Tabletop, the Irish games channel. And one of the aspects they were talking about was that because you've got to get above the smog, and the smog rises every turn in some scenarios, so it actually gets higher and forces you to search the high ground. There was a little demo video, I think, that you sent me, where there's one of the characters has like a rudimentary grapple thrower.
Yeah, grappling hooks.
So throwing those and then trying to get higher than someone else. But if it's, this is the kind of game that Anakin loses every day, because if you've got the high ground, everything below that is getting schmogged to death.
Yeah. So, the way to win is to like be the person that's highest on the buildings, and some of the tables through the Instagram and through their official group on Facebook. There is some amazing tables being created by people, different the companies. Some people are fully converting them. Guys are doing tutorials on how to make their own little grappling hooks with out of fishing and little stuff like that. Like, it's the amount of stuff for this is really quite cool, and something I definitely am looking at getting into.
So, question then for you, Mitch. One of the things that we look at, like especially in our group, is we've all got such large collections of miniatures already. So we try to look for things that are a little bit miniature agnostic. Given that it's such a specialized setting, like we've all got kind of medieval miniatures, but do you think that it would be something that anyone could kind of use some existing models for, or do you think it's going to be, because it's such a specialized setting, especially with the schmog, that you're going to need really kind of those official miniatures to play?
No, see, they actually even talk about it on one of the playthrough episodes, that this is a miniature agnostic game. There's a bunch of people that have been converting up their warbands. In fact, the warbands they use in their first videos are all just converted out of different kits with like big dome helmets on them. They're like cool. So the official miniatures are really nice. They have a very grubby looking quality to them. They fit the universe for it. But people have been using Frostgrave bits. People have been using bits and things like that. So you can do anything. I imagine
that their bespoke miniatures would look even better for the setting, but you could use any suitable medieval thing. Is it 28 mil or like recommended for the scale for the rules?
It looks to be 28, yeah. So I mean 28 to 32 you can kind of get away with. It's pretty close. Although mind you, some of the things like the Highland miniatures figures at 32 mil can be quite large compared to say a GW or like a War Games or Perry Miniatures 28 mil. Like I think if you have everybody kind of running on the same wavelength as far as the size, I think it'd be fine. Yeah. It's just a matter of having them mocked up with all the equipment that they would normally have. Like, just looks very cool. Like I said, haven't got the book yet. I'm definitely going to be getting it though, because it's something that I want to get in on. Yeah, they've got 2 campaign books that are out within the Game Found stuff, which is cool. So you have, and like they've got, I think they're above 100,000 now for their pledges. So which is really quite amazing. They've got a whole bunch of extra artwork done for it. They've got a map as well for the world, for like the Europe as of the the time period. Look, it's something again a bit. Well, it's very different to Warmaster. It's not something that is that sort of 10 mil scale. Yeah. But as far as sort of something that keep a lookout for, as far as a good game, if you want something just to play with your mates, it's easy because it is only a 2 foot, like it's 2 foot by 2 foot sort of circle board. You build up your terrain, so it can be much taller. It can be as tall as you want, but you don't want to have your game carry on. The game's like 8 turns or 8 rounds, so it's not particularly long. Most games they say between 30 to 45 minutes. So, and it's designed that you can play it with the setup is. So it's it looks to be a game that I would pretty much recommend if you got like a group of people. Want to have something that you've got either big collections that you can take a miniature out of and convert up, or if you wanted to go through and utilize anything along the lines of who does get the STLs and does do the printing up for it. Whatever floats your boat, really, or floats yourself out of the smog. Yeah. It's one of those things that, cool game, something I like. Yep, yeah, very cool.
And
Check it out.
as you said, Mitch, you've been very good this month. Only had to use the stay on target meme once so far. So proud of you for what's distracting Mitch being small.
Absolutely. Excellent. Well, that will wrap us up for What's Distracting Mitch. That wraps us up for episode 8. Thank you for joining us. We hope you've enjoyed our little chat about all the things that are exciting for us in the Warmaster hobby at the moment. We are looking for some feedback. This is a shorter episode, and we're going to try to keep them around this sort of 1 hour mark for a little bit and see how we go. If you like shorter form podcasts, let us know. If you like longer form podcasts, then let us know as well. It's just finding out what our audience is really into. We try to stay on one topic, mainly this time about Warmaster. If you like a broader spread, like the shotgun approach, then let us know too. You can check us out on our various socials for Andrew and Mitch and myself. They're all listed over on our Facebook page for Inglorious Banters, so go and find us there. And also through Podbean, which is our main podcast host. So that's Hyperfocus Hobbies for me, Beer Battered Brush for Mitch, and Duchy of Gissero for Andrew. And you can follow along our individual hobby progress there.
When I post updates.
That's a different story.
Yeah.
Thanks all for tuning in.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, guys.